You've used Witcher signs hundreds of times, but do you know what they really are, or why Witchers rely on them instead of full sorcery? Today we'll break it down. First, a general look at signs, then a deeper dive into each one according to the lore of both the books and the games. Let's begin. Brief introduction to signs. The 5 Witcher signs are Aard, Axii, Igni, Aard, and Quen. Both the games and the books emphasize that signs are not meant to replace a Witcher's sword, but to give him an edge on the battlefield, or, in some cases, to sway potential enemies and avoid conflict altogether, as seen with the Axii sign, where steel, superior strength, speed, and reflexes are not enough, signs become an essential part of a Witcher's arsenal. Through them, a Witcher can briefly harness chaos in a controlled, rudimentary way, using simple gestures and focused intent to influence the flow of battle, regardless of the foe. Different Witcher schools place emphasis on different disciplines when it comes to signs. The School of the Wolf approaches them pragmatically, treating signs as a supplementary tool, almost a third weapon, while the School of the Griffin relies heavily on their use, placing greater importance on magical discipline and control. A brief analysis on each of the signs. A sign is not sorcery, at least not in the way mages practice it. Both signs and sorcery draw from chaos, the raw magical energy of the world. But unlike sorcery, signs don't require complex formulas or lengthy rituals. They are simplified, rudimentary forms of magic, easily cast and low in energy cost. As well, where sorcerers manipulate chaos, Witchers merely control it. Magic in the Witcher universe is dangerous and volatile, so the discipline behind Witcher signs are simple, reduce the usage of chaos into safe, repeatable forms. Thus signs were born. Signs are triggered by a hand gesture or a marking on the ground, combined with the Witcher's concentration. This explains why Witchers often fight with one hand free, their sword in one hand and the other ready to channel a sign. In essence, signs are tactical tools for combat, survival, and control, making them more effective for monster hunting than sorcery alone, which drains the person casting it very quickly. But how did they come to be? The origins of signs. Who created signs is uncertain. Most likely they were developed by proto-Witchers under mage supervision, or perhaps directly by mages themselves. They were then taught to the next generation of Witchers as part of their rigorous training. This all started when humanity was losing the war against monsters, after the events of the Conjunction of the Spheres, which itself is its own video, but briefly put various realms converged, and even humans were introduced into the world. Now mages needed a solution, a living experiment. Witchers were the result. Children transformed through the trial of grasses, mutations enhancing their strength, reflexes and senses, trained to survive a world full of monsters and equipped to deal with the threat of these chaos-touched beings. Signs were an essential part of this survival toolkit. A brief analysis on each of the signs.
Igni, fire in the palm of your hand. Let's begin with Igni, the sign of fire. Igni is pyrokinesis reduced to its safest possible form, a controlled release of chaos shaped into flame through gesture and concentration. Unlike true fire magic practiced by mages, Igni does not summon infernos or reshape the battlefield. Instead, it produces a short jet or burst of flame, just enough to burn, cauterize, or intimidate. In the early days of the Witcher schools, fire was considered both essential and dangerous. Monsters often required burning to prevent regeneration, necromantic reanimation, or the spread of disease. Witchers like Vesemir taught that Igni was not meant to destroy, but to finish, to cleanse the battlefield after the sword had done its work. Igni reflects the Witcher philosophy perfectly. Power must be controlled, or it will consume its wielder. It is practical rather than elegant, and its limitations are intentional. Rain, wind, and water weaken its effect, reminding Witchers that Igni is not mastery over fire, but a brief negotiation with it. Aard, the wave of force next is Aard, the sign of telekinetic force. Aard channels chaos into a focused kinetic wave, capable of pushing enemies back, knocking them off balance, or creating precious moments of vulnerability. It is often described in the books as a sharp blast of invisible pressure, rather than the dramatic shockwaves seen in the games. This was one of the earliest signs codified during the formation of the Witcher schools, likely because of its immediate battlefield value. Against monsters larger, faster, or stronger than a human, positioning is everything. And Aard exists to control space. Geralt himself frequently uses Aard not to defeat enemies outright, but to interrupt attacks, break formations, or escape overwhelming odds. Its limitations are clear: short range, rapid dissipation, and reduced effectiveness against massive or well-anchored foes. Aard's philosophy is simple. You don't need to overpower chaos, only redirect it. Quen, the protective shield. Now we turn to Quen, the sign of protection. Quen manifests as a magical barrier, absorbing or deflecting harm from physical blows, magical attacks, and even environmental dangers. It is not invulnerability, but a second chance, a moment to survive what would otherwise be fatal. Early Witchers learned quickly that no amount of training or mutation could guarantee survival. Quen was developed as a response to that reality, allowing Witchers to face creatures that could kill with a single strike. In the books, Quen is strictly defensive. It demands focus and restraint, reinforcing the Witcher creed: survival comes before glory. Geralt often casts Quen not as a crutch, but as a precaution, acknowledging that even experience has limits. Quen represents humility in the face of chaos. The world is stronger than you are. Prepare accordingly. Axii, the mind sign. Next is Axii, the sign of influence and control. Axii works not on the body, but on the mind, subtly bending thoughts, calming emotions, or imposing hesitation. It is one of the most controversial signs, especially among Witchers who believe manipulation of free will should be used sparingly. Geralt frequently employs Axii to avoid unnecessary bloodshed, especially when dealing with humans. Bandits, guards, and civilians are often more dangerous than monsters, not because of strength, but unpredictability. Its effectiveness depends heavily on intelligence and willpower. Humans are particularly susceptible, while monsters with simple instincts may only be briefly stunned. Axii reveals the Witcher's preference for efficiency over brutality. The School of the Griffin, known for its deep study of signs, placed special emphasis on Axii, believing that control of the mind was often more decisive than control of the blade. Sometimes the sharpest weapon is persuasion. Yrden, the binding the unseen. Finally, there is Yrden, the most arcane of the signs. Yrden creates magical wards and glyphs typically inscribed on the ground that bind, slow, or reveal supernatural entities, especially those that exist between planes, such as wraiths and specters. Lore-wise, Arden is closest to ancient sorcery. Long before Witchers existed, mages and proto-monster hunters used runes, circles, and ritual wards to contain supernatural threats. Yrden is a distilled remnant of that tradition. Ritual magic reduced to something practical and safe. In many ways, Yrden represents order imposed upon chaos. It does not overpower the supernatural. It defines the rules under which it must operate. This is why it is so effective against incorporeal beings, forcing them into partial materiality. Yrden reminds us that Witchers are not just killers of monsters, they are mediators between worlds, enforcing boundaries where reality itself is frayed. So, there we have it.
Signs are the most basic form of magic. Chaos distilled into practicality, low on the cost of energy, and fast to cast. Signs are the perfect weapon for Witchers because they are not volatile as other forms of magic and efficient for what they were created for, which are monsters, and sometimes even men who could be monsters themselves in the literal and figurative sense. It's a third sword to the two swords of the Witcher's arsenal. That's it. Thank you for watching my first short lore video. Please consider liking and subscribing, as it will help me grow and give me incentive to improve my video's quality. Goodbye.